So we got a lot of stuff to talk about this week, Stevie. UFC 195, the show in Japan with Fedor. Lots of news, including, let's just get this out of the way early right now, a certain MMA fighter will be live from New York at the end of the month.
Yes, indeed. Saturday Night Live, Ronda Rousey will be making her debut on the program.
And did you hear who the musical guest is?
I did, but I've already forgotten, so tell our listeners who it was.
I would hope it would be like a rock band or maybe someone that, Rousey...
Wait, was it Selena Gomez?
Yes, it was Selena freaking Gomez.
It's like a girl power thing. Just look at it that way. It's Ronda Rousey and Selena Gomez.
And Holly Holm, the one who, is the champion, isn't the host of Saturday Night Live, but she did get a new contract, so.
Right, a multi-year extension, so she's pretty well set. And, Ronda Rousey was already a movie star before she lost, so you got to expect that she's still going to be doing the Hollywood thing. Even if she never gets the title back ever again, she's pretty well set.
Well, I think she still has to film the Roadhouse movie.
That too, yeah. So, she's got a lot of movies on her plate and probably will for the foreseeable future.
But let's move on to UFC 195, Lawler versus Condit. And what was the tagline of this one again?
Terrifying.
Terrifying. And the main event, was that terrifying when it went to the judges, or did the right man win?
I think the most terrifying thing was actually the fifth round, seeing Carlos Condit get battered into oblivion and not go out. How did he survive that?
Alright, so for those who didn't see it, Lawler retains 48-47, 48-47, and 47-48 to retain the welterweight.
That's not what the sports writers there in the MGM Grand had it. They polled 18 writers, 15 of them had Condit winning.
So, rematch?
You would think so, but I have a more pertinent question.
Okay.
How did you score the third round?
Ooh.
Be honest, tell our listeners what you really thought. Who won round 3?
Lawler?
And you base that on what?
Just the way it was.
I'll give you two options here for how you can call it. It's either volume of strikes landed or significant power strikes. Now, what's your criteria?
See, usually it's power strikes. Basically, the guy who wins the round is the one who's most effective. I don't like the ones that, they threw the most punches, but if those punches don't equate to, damage, and the fighter who gets hit the most, but has octagon control and is controlling that round, he's going to win the round.
See, you can make the argument that based on octagon control and total number of strikes, Condit won round 3. But you can also make the argument that based on damage and power from shots landed, that Lawler won the round. Which is why round 3 is the swing round on the scorecards. The two judges that gave it to Lawler gave him the fight.
Yeah, it's... When a fight is that close, there's no bad call. You know what I mean? Like, you could go either way. Right. It's not like Condit was robbed here.
Well, that's the funny thing, though. That's why I go back to what the sports writers there at the MGM Grand had it, because most of them felt it was 3-1 going into the 5th, and the only round Lawler had won was the 1st. So almost everybody thought that Condit was walking away with the title unless Lawler knocked him out. And so when Lawler didn't get the knockout, although he tried like hell in that 5th round, Lord knows he tried, most people thought Condit was walking away with the title. So those scores caught a lot of people flat-footed.
Now, if you're Condit's, manager or cornerman, what do you tell him going into that 5th round?
They flat out told him, you're not going to be satisfied unless you finish this fight. Go out there and finish this fight.
Is that what you would have done?
I would give him the same advice to both corners. Lawler's corner was even more urgent about it. They didn't let him think that he was in the lead at all. They're like, go out there and kill him. You need to go out there and finish this. They basically the same advice as far as I recall.
Yeah, it's tricky because when it comes to a fighter's psyche, you could be like, okay, You're winning this fight. You're winning this fight. Try to play more of a defense role. We think that, if you're focused more on your defense as opposed to your offense, we can grind out, it's 5 minutes, and we can grind out this decision if they're confident in the scores. But that third round, without knowing, I mean, they're not posting the rounds round by round on the Jumbotron, you know what I mean?
Well,
so you have no idea.
The whole idea of coasting in the final round of a fight is so incredibly dangerous anyway.
Oh, it is.
That even if it wasn't a title fight, I wouldn't advise it. And in a title fight, I definitely wouldn't. You don't want to ever do that in the 5th round of any title fight. You gotta go out there like it's the first round, like you haven't scored anything.
Yeah, and it's not like Condit has a small gas tank either.
No, I mean, they were both bruised, battered, and beat up, but they were still ready for war in that 5th round. There was no question in the heart of either man that they were going to leave it all in that cage, which is why, even though it's very early in the year, people are calling this a fight of the year contender. Are you going to argue with it?
Oh, come on.
I mean, seriously.
It's 2 days into the year.
I know, but that 5th round will go down as one of the greatest 5th rounds in history.
Right now, I would say, man, this is hard because it's like 2 days out of 365. I would say I could see this fight being in the top 10.
I would say when we do a show a year from now, you're still going to remember this fight. That's my opinion.
Wow. We've got some great fights coming up in the next 6 months. So.
Oh, hell, I'm looking forward to Verdun Velasquez 2 in a month's time. I expect that one will be a classic as well.
And somebody asked me what the tagline should be for that one. I just said, "Where's the beef?"
My tagline.
Like, what are you gonna say? These are 2 heavyweights.
My tagline would be "Not at altitude."
Oh, please. Yeah, but it's not gonna be in Denver, huffing and puffing. Okay, wait, maybe huffing and puffing isn't the right thing to say about Denver anymore.
I just wrote a review the other day about a rapper from Colorado. I was like, you know what? I can tell why this first guy's song is about smoking.
Oh no. Was it Up in Smoke?
No, just his general attitude in the whole song was like, I'm gonna blaze up and I'm gonna lay up and I'm gonna stay up and blah blah. It's like, okay, yeah, he's in Denver, he can do that. It's fair game for him to say that.
Oh man. Alright, let's get back to the card. Miocic versus Arlovsky, and this fight lasted less than a minute.
Yeah, you know what? If you roll one up in front of Miocic, he'll put it out. He's a firefighter.
Yeah, well, he was
on fire in this fight. He left no doubt. He turned the new Andrei Arlovsky into the old Andrei Arlovsky.
Did you hear what Dana White said in the post-fight?
Glass jaw? That's what I would have said.
No. Miocic is getting the next shot at the heavyweight title because I'm scared to tell him he's not.
Well, yeah, you saw the way he came over and screamed at Lorenzo Fertitta and Data, right?
Yeah, I'd be scared too.
That's no pun intended again on him being a firefighter, but that was the most fired up I've ever seen him.
Yeah, I had I think pessimist is the right word, but I had this really bad feeling someone's gonna fail a drug test after this fight, and I was like, please don't let it be Miocic. Please don't let it be Miocic.
No,
because he was just amped up. I'd never seen him that amped up before.
Well, I think he wants to get over this idea that he's just cool, calm, and composed and that nothing ruffles his skin. He wants people to know he cares about getting the title. I think he made that exhibition to prove a point, like, put me in line. I really do want this. I may seem like I'm cool as ice, but I'm really not. I'm really wanting this bad. Kind of like when George St. Pierre got on his knees and begged Dana White for the title shot, please. Yeah. It's like, you gotta prove how much you want it. You gotta show people.
On one side, I'm thinking about Carlos Condit's comments at the post-fight, saying that he might retire after this loss, saying it was do or die. Then on the other hand, I'm thinking with this loss, what does Arlovsky do at this point?
Well, he's still going to be a top 10 fighter. In fact, since we're talking about it, let me pull up the old UFC.com/rankings and let's see how many spots he dropped after this fight. He is
Was there any notes for this show, like any notes from the UFC before this show saying watch out for this fighter or don't rank this fighter?
There were a few, mostly with top 15, like bubble fighters. There were a couple that could have broken in with a win, but we'll get to them when we get to them. I just want to
Okay.
tell you that right now, Arlovsky only dropped one place to third, and he's tied with Alistair Overeem, although technically they put Overeem ahead of him because he moved up two. So they're tied for third, but Overeem is ahead of him on the list.
Okay. So 3. So Miocic
is number 2. He moved up one spot behind Kane.
Oh yeah, because Kane is number 1 because he's not the champion. Yeah, it's not like co-champs anymore.
Right.
Okay, so with the next fight with Tumanov and Larkin, another split decision, this one going in favor of Tumanov.
Did you think this was the right call? I did.
I always say never leave it to the judges, so Larkin can't be pissed by this.
Larkin, he was trying to win it with leg kicks alone, and if there were 2 more rounds, maybe he would have done that, but one whole round of leg kicks in the third round wasn't enough to turn the tide.
Unless you're fighting Nate Marquardt, then all bets are off when it comes to leg kicks.
Indeed, but it was not enough here, so like you said, Larkin really has nothing to complain about. He needed to do more, and he needed to do more sooner in this fight. He waited too long.
Now we were talking off air about this next fight. 3rd round victory for Brian Ortega over Diego Brandao. The sick triangle choke.
Yeah, and it was actually like his 2nd or 3rd attempt to sink in a submission, and he finally got it on, and then he immediately started celebrating afterwards. That's why they call me T-City, baby, triangle choke, T-City. And people on Twitter started freaking out, like, make this guy Triangle City t-shirts like Brock Lesnar gets suplexed.
This should be like an MMAtees.com. That's not a bad idea.
Well, suggest it to Pro Wrestling Tees, they'd probably do it.
Yep. Abel Trujillo against Tony Sims. Trujillo wins with a guillotine. 1st round, 318. I flipped the numbers on that one.
Well, you were the one who said that he had the most to lose if he didn't win, and then he might be cut. So your backs against the wall theory panned out on this one.
Yeah, I mean, when it goes to that when it comes into this fight, see, this is why I had 3rd round, because it was back against the wall. Treat every round like a 3rd round, because you just don't know. But 318 and you win by a tap out, I mean, take it.
Yes, indeed.
Like, it probably turned some heads, and it's back on the winning ways, and I don't fear for his job anymore, but the other side of me is thinking they're gonna do some more cuts soon. You know it's coming. The axe is always just above the bandsaw. You know what I mean? Like, there's gonna be 5, 6, 10 fighters who are always in fear of losing their jobs, and with so many people under contract right now, it's gonna be, I'm not saying like a bloody, what's the Black Monday with all the coaches getting fired in the NFL? I'm not saying it's going to be a big number, but it's going to be another wave of cuts happening, I would say, before March 1st.
Well, just like this last wave we saw, guys that you would have thought just because they're popular would have stayed on, like Fabio Maldonado. I mean, his record wasn't that great, but he was great to put on a card in Brazil because the fans there always loved him, and he'd always go out there and have not a great fight, but an exciting fight, even though he usually lost them. You would think they would keep a guy around like that, but they didn't.
Yeah, because, yes, he is a name fighter, but how many name fighters could you pull out of Brazil to headline a show or be on a Brazil card?
I suppose they have more than enough for that role, but I guess I would have kept Fabio Maldonado. Even though he's not an elite fighter, I would have kept him around just to pop the crowd on the undercard.
That's like saying, we'll just pull someone from TriStar and have a show in Montreal. You know what I mean? It's not going to be that hard to find a talented guy in Brazil or a talented guy in Montreal if they had a show in Montreal.
All right. I see your point. I'm not convinced that Maldonado was the best of all the possible cuts they could have made. By the way, since we were talking about Ortega, he moved into the number 15 spot at featherweight. So there's your guys on the bubble, whether or not they were advised they could get in, he got in.
There was a note I had, because when we recorded last week, there was a conference call going on. And about Silva and Bisping, right?
Right, the show on Fight Pass next month.
Did you hear that they canceled the show in Rio because of it?
Well, I guess they needed more fighters for the card in the O2, so if that's what they had to do, that's what they had to do.
So Silva goes from fighting in his home country to fighting as the visitor.
Yeah, but he'll probably get a much bigger payday from whatever they can fill in the O2, so I'm sure logistically speaking it's a nightmare for a lot of people traveling, but for him it's cha-ching blah bling.
Do you think the UFC will be scouting the wrestling at the Rio Olympics this summer?
I mean, they'd be crazy not to scout any major wrestling event to look for talent, but then so would UFC. I mean, you gotta look at all wrestlers at the Olympic level and think future MMA or pro wrestling superstars, just who can get to them first.
Did I say WWE? I thought you said UFC.
You did.
Jeez.
That's fine.
They're
both
now.
scouting the same talent when it comes to wrestlers.
Yeah. Also, I know it's a Ronda Rousey gimmick, but I mean, like, you gotta think UFC's also going to be scouting the judo.
By the way, I got another ranking update for you.
Okay.
Evan Dunham breaks in at number 15 in the lightweight division.
Really?
Yep, number 15. First time not previously ranked.
Wow. Good for him. Oh, I heard something from Smiling Sam Alvey this week.
What's the latest on Mr. Alvey? Funny joke!
Alright, so we go on to the prelims on Fox Sports 1. Michael McDonald against Masanori Kanehara, and McDonald wins via rear naked choke at 2:09 of the second round.
Now this was one of the slickest, sickest submissions you will ever see, cause he was just about ready to tap out. I mean, seconds away from tapping out. And not only did he escape, he immediately took the back and put in a choke even tighter than the one he had just been in. Like, boom, bang, bing, done. Like, how the freaking hell did he do that? I watched that replay like 10 times, and how did he go from being 1 second away from tapping out to tapping the guy out himself? It was amazing.
I think he's playing possum with that first one.
Maybe, but Kanehara looked like he really had the better of him in that first round and was cruising his way to it in the second round as well when McDonald pulled that rabbit out of his hat like nobody's business.
Now, this next fight, you know I'm going to bring up. It's the Morino-Onoke fight. Do you remember what happened in this one?
Tell our listeners.
Alright, so Alex Morono beating Kyle Noke via split decision, 29-28, 29-28, and 27-30. Huh?
Yeah. The judging, what?
Yeah. I thought there might have been a mistake. Maybe it's 30-27, not 27-30, but split decision. I was like, I had to, just do a double take and just almost pause the screen. I was like, that can't be right. But I had it 2-1. I mean, I had Morono winning. There's no way Noke won all 3 rounds. No.
Hell
no.
I don't think there's any way either one of them won all 3 rounds.
No. Let's see. Was there anything else that caught your eye on this card? I mean, Westcott Garcia on the Fight Pass was pretty good.
That was over quick.
Yeah, I mean, anytime a fight is under a round, it's Westcott getting the Duke at 3:12 the first via TKO.
Yeah, I think the other fight that I would talk about out of any of the ones that you haven't already mentioned is Poirier and Duffy, because that one I think surprised a lot of people, including me, because Duffy was the favorite going into the fight, and Poirier pretty much had his way with him to the point I believe he got a 10-8 from one of the judges.
What round was that in?
It might have second or third. It was very early in the card, so I'm having a hard time remembering that far back 5 days later.
Yeah, I want to say second round, but you're right. Sometimes when you watch a lot of fights in a short amount of time, they kind of blend together after a point, so.
But Poirier definitely had a round that was close enough to being a 10-8 that I didn't have a problem with it.
No. Alright, so let's move on to the big show in Japan. The 2 nights there, we're just doing breaking news as it was breaking the results of the first day. But, was there anything on the first day that surprised you?
Let's see. Going down the list here, Muhammad Lawal beat Brett McDermott. That's not a surprise. Nedkov, Reljic, that could have gone either way, but Nedkov knocked him out, so good feather in his cap. Kazushi Sakuraba really shouldn't have been fighting at all. That was kind of sad to watch. Aoki got an easy win against a guy that has no business being in a cage anymore.
How old is he now?
How old is Sakuraba? Just
Yeah.
looking at him, you would think he was 60, but he's actually 46.
He's only 46?
And he looks way older than that, doesn't he? I mean, shit, seriously.
Holy crap.
Yeah, that guy's been in too many wars. He shouldn't be fighting anymore. Let's see.
We talk about tread on the tires. It's bald at his point. Jesus.
I guess the most major upset of the first night that I can call from all of these fights would be Tsuyoshi Kasaka TKOing James the Colossus Thompson in the second round.
See, I saw that, and I just think he got clipped.
Yeah, it happens to everybody, but you would think after the way he got blown out in the Lashley fight in Bellator that he was going to come back looking to reassert himself. I just didn't expect him to take another loss. I thought he would get back to his winning ways.
Now, do you think this will... Obviously, it's going to hurt his confidence, but what do you do with a guy like James Thompson right now?
I think he's still enough of a name to be a draw if he goes and fights in other places. I don't think it's the end of the road for him. I just think it's a setback in his career when he was on such a hot streak to have suddenly taken 2 losses in a row. It knocks him down a few pegs from being considered a contender just about anywhere to being a mid-card guy that you use just because of his name value.
Yeah. Let's just go to day 2. And Fedor getting beat was pretty... No, I'm just kidding.
Ha ha ha.
Fedor wins in 3 minutes and 2 seconds, and for those who woke up for breakfast with Fedor, you know, you got what you expected.
We knew this all along. We knew Singh Jaideep was just sent in there to be a guy to get beat and get beat up. That was his role, and he filled it.
You know what promotion turned down the Ryzen fight with Fedor?
Go ahead and tell everybody.
World Series of Fighting.
Okay.
How does that help World Series of Fighting?
Yeah, I don't see how it would.
Ray Sefo was like, no, I mean, no.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't make sense.
Right. Why would you send somebody over there to get beat up by Fedor? No.
And if the only thing I could think of is World Series sends the biggest guy they got. Or hell, have someone that is one fight away from getting the next title shot, right? And he goes there and he beats Fedor. Comes back stateside. Jeez, this is the guy who just knocked out of retirement Fedor. Is that good or bad for the promotion?
Hard to say. I don't see a lot of positive advantages. Cause like you said, if you beat Fedor, you beat a Fedor that just came out of retirement. And if you don't beat Fedor, then you go back and you're like, man, you're the guy that lost to Fedor. What do we do with you now? It's a no-win situation.
Now, I talked about this off air. Akibono against Bob Sapp.
Mm-hmm.
Why? I know it's Japan. That's not a reason. But
you know what's more interesting about that than the fact that they did it?
that it went the distance? Or almost the distance, I should say?
Well, yeah, basically, because Bob Sapp is known for taking one punch and quitting, and he didn't quit in this fight. He went out there and actually fought to win. This was a Bob Sapp like we haven't seen in years. And mind you, it was against a guy that, in Akibono, who was gonna be a beatable opponent, but still, this was not the usual Bob Sapp performance.
Well, Akibono got a nasty cut in the back of his head, and they gave him some time to recover here while the doctors tried to do a quick fix, and they were mopping up the ring, and I'm like, this is more time than they give fighters in UFC, that's for sure. But it's Japan, they have different ways to do things, and I mean, I watched Akibono and Bob Sapp on New Year's Eve in 2015. If this fight was 5-10 years ago, maybe it'd be more exciting, maybe not. I don't know, but Someone said, and I love this quote, I forget who I heard it from, but the quote was simply this: Bob Sapp is still big in Japan.
He always has been, he always will be.
Yeah, it's the character. That's all it is.
Well,
Alright, so
you
let's talk
talk
about
about
this.
watching freak show fights. You watched the Gabby Garcia and Lady Tapa fight. Surely you've got something to say about that.
Why part 2? Why? Like, I swear that should be on a t-shirt. Why? Just because it's Japan is not a reason. That should be
Because
just
Japan
a t-shirt.
is the reason. That's exactly what the shirt would say. Why? Because Japan.
I guess. I mean, you know, there's the old joke about shaking your head and just like face palm. You know what I mean? Like, okay. But I was impressed with Kron Garcia against Yamamoto.
Okay. So be more specific. Tell everybody why you were impressed.
Well, he's 2-0 now, and he's, you know, it's the Gracie shadow is bloody huge. It's like Wayne Gretzky's kids playing hockey. It's like you can't escape that shadow. But I think Kronger, I mean, it is a small sample size of 2 fights, but I don't know, maybe it's the nostalgic part of my brain where it's kind of cool to see Gracie on the winning side of a fight. You know, I mean, kids of kids are going to be. I was talking to somebody about the World Junior Tournament there, and there's a player on Team USA who's the son of Keith Kachuk. And I can remember when Kachuk broke into the league, his father. Now we're getting, the son is now coming up, and now it's like, you know, sons, uncle, you know, like people we watched as kids, now we're having kids who are now in the league. It's crazy.
I'm just wondering if you've had this exact same reaction to other Gracies you've seen, because there are a lot of Gracies out there fighting right now. You know, there's no shortage of sons, and, you know, sorry, my phone just keeps going off like crazy here. Let me see what the...
It's Dana White.
No, it's my friend Chaz Kangas.
He's gonna say a shout out on the podcast is what he's getting. Anyways, I would say the Gracie with the, you know, the current crop of Gracies, I guess you could say, has to be Hodger. He's the name Gracie right now, and Kron 2-0 now, and winning via triangle choke late in the first round with 3 seconds left on the clock. So let me get this straight. A Gracie wins by submission. Tell me you're shocked.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, if he won by knockout, that would be something. Now, let's talk about the last big thing on this Ryzen Fighting Federation show, and that is the tournament.
And the guy I interviewed, King Mo, won the whole shebang.
Big surprise. Was there ever any doubt? Was he ever in any peril, so to speak?
I don't really think so. The Theodoros Akstolas fight went a little longer than everybody thought. It went to a unanimous decision, but King Mo prevailed in that. So the only real concern would have been if he had gotten injured and been unable to continue in the tournament, but he had more than enough left in the tank to knock out Jiri Prokaza, and did so at 5 minutes and 9 seconds. And if
that was a highlight knockout.
And if you're confused as a listener why that was 9 seconds after the end of the round, not in Rising. They do 10-minute first rounds.
Sounds painful. It just sounds like, I know they're trying to be different, I get that, but a 10-minute first round? Man, some fighters would not benefit with that.
Well, that's actually how Jiri Prokaza advanced over Vadim Nemkov, because at the end of 10 minutes, Nemkov couldn't continue. He'd been fighting for so long, he didn't have any gas in the tank.
No, he was on fumes.
Yeah, so Prokaza advanced strictly on the basis of his opponent couldn't continue, and then he got knocked out by King Mo, so that ended that.
At least he lasted 5 minutes. I wonder what the over-under was for how long he'd last in the main event.
Well, you never know with these tournaments. You really never know. But it was nice to see King Mo win one after what happened to him at Bellator 142. It felt like redemption.
It did feel like redemption. You're absolutely right on that. All right. So, is there anything else on this show, or do you want to go to the news?
Let's go to the news.
All right. So we talked about Condit. Do you think Condit will retire? We touched on this when we did the show, but do you think with his performance he gets it next? Does he get a rematch? Does he retire? What does he do here?
I think he was emotional about not getting the win, that by any right he would have thought, looking back on how he did in the fight, he would have thought he had it. Other than the first or the fifth round, those were the only 2 rounds that he would have clearly lost. So I can understand him being emotional and saying, I'm done, I can't do this anymore, I've come so close so many times, I can't dredge up another performance like that. So I think once he cooled down a little and had more time to think about it, I don't think he would still feel that way, but in the heat of the moment, I can understand.
Now, we talked about UFC 195. One of the winners was Drew Dober, and apparently he wants his next fight to be a rematch against Leonardo Silva.
Leandro. Why do you always
Leandro
do this?
Silva.
He's not a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. He's not. He's not a hero in a half shell.
Turtle power. UFC has signed Randy Brown. He's fighting Matt Dwyer at UFC on Fox 18. Kind of an interesting fight. I like Matt Dwyer, actually.
Yeah, he's
and
a good
if
fighter.
you're putting someone in who is making his debut, it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I would have had Randy Brown fight someone who is looking to make his debut from the world of wrestling. Apparently, Dana White has said that CM Punk's first fight, he wants the opponent to have a 1-0 record.
Yeah, he wanted a guy that was either 0-0 or 1-0. He wanted somebody at Punk's level of experience, is what he said.
Are we talking 0-0 in mixed martial arts or 0-0 in UFC?
Well, you couldn't be 0-0 in UFC if you were in. You were.
CM Punk is.
Well, the way you said that, let me back up what I was saying. If you're already in UFC, you've had at least one fight. If you're debuting in UFC, you could be 0-0.
Yeah. Oh boy. Let's see what else is here. No, we talked about that. We talked about no real injuries, surprise, except for Lawler and Condit getting 2-month suspensions. But I mean, we all know the joke with the suspensions. It's, you know, as long as they get cleared by a doctor, they're good to go. But 2 months isn't too bad for the war they had.
Shit, I would have expected 90 days minimum for both of them.
I was thinking 6 months, to be honest.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been a shock either. Again, that 5th round, I would have put them both in the hospital immediately.
So, new champ Luke Rockhold is looking to come back in the summer, but does not want to be on UFC 199.
Well, why would you?
I know.
Why would anybody want to be on the card before UFC 200? That's like, you know, we always talk about wrestling on this show. That's like being in the death spot. That's like being the match that goes on before the world title match. That's the match that goes from 9 to 9:20 p.m. or 10 to 10:20 if you're in the East. You know, you don't want to be on UFC 199. Who would? You'd want to be 2-3 weeks later, you'd want to wait and be on the biggest card ever.
It's like, why would you want to go see the Detroit Red Wing game when you can watch the Maple Leafs?
Boo! You're getting even with me for my Maple Leafs joke from a few shows ago now, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Hey, the Wings have put together a few wins, so you better keep an eye out for them.
So, you want a good laugh?
Well, a better one than that last joke, because that wasn't funny at all.
King Mo is calling out his next Bellator fight.
And
the fighter doesn't work for Bellator.
Who did he call out?
Fedor.
Well,
Come on.
Wait a minute. Did you not listen to my interview?
I heard parts of it, but you can't be serious. You can't call out fighters who don't work for the promotion.
Dude, I asked him about this. I said, do you want a fight with Fedor? And he said, Fedor is a legend. I'm not going to call out a legend because it's not my place to do that. But if they offered me a fight with Fedor, I wouldn't say no. That's what he told me, point blank. Go back and listen.
You can't call for a fight with a guy that doesn't work for your company, though.
All he's saying is if they offered him a fight, he'd take it. He didn't say, Fedor, you're a pussy, man up and face me. He never said that. He didn't call him out, quote unquote. In fact, he went above and beyond his way to say, don't misquote me on this, and I even wrote that in my article on Mania. Don't misquote him on this. He did not call him out. He said he would take a fight with him if he was offered one. So anybody
so
that's
I'm gonna go to his Twitter.
All right, what does he say on Twitter?
King Mo versus Fedor in the Bellator MMA cage on Spike TV in Dallas, Texas. King Mo versus Fedor needs to take place in Bellator cage. Make it free on Spike TV. Retweet this.
I don't consider that calling out Fedor. That's just wish fulfillment. He's trying to make something happen. He's not saying anything bad about Fedor. He's just hoping that could somehow happen. He's hoping social media could put enough pressure on people to make it happen. But he's not.
How much money would that take? Like, what do you think Fedor's price tag is?
It would take millions. And Bellator is not going to spend that just for one fight. We both know this. So, he's not calling out Fedor. I don't want anybody listening to this show to get the impression from that tweet that he is, because I know what he told me one-on-one, man-to-man, and I know that tweet doesn't say that either.
All right, well, let's go to Robbie Lawler. Who do you think his next opponent should be?
Man, after that fight, it probably should be Carlos Condit. Really? I mean, the question you're asking me is, if not Condit, who? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
All right, then. If you're not giving Carlos Condit the immediate rematch from the current top 5, boy, you're going to call me crazy when I say this, but I really think it has to be Rory McDonald.
Wow.
He's the only other guy other than Condit who's come that close to beating him.
I was thinking the same thing. Also, I would consider Maya.
Maya needs to beat somebody in the top 5. He's on the bubble of getting that fight, but he needs one more big win. Yeah,
I was thinking Maya's more of a long shot, but I was thinking Condit. If not Condit, I could see Rory. If not Rory, I gotta think outside the box. I gotta go Maya.
Mm-hmm. Hey, speaking of guys that are on the bubble, did you notice they had T. Wood doing some of the pre-fight commentary on the panel?
Oh no.
No, what's so no about that? I thought he was doing a fine job.
Did he mention Hendricks?
I don't remember if he did, but if he did, I'm sure he said something funny, because he seemed to be rolling with the punches and being pretty entertaining on there.
Alright. Did you hear about Bellator 149, the main event, or should be a main event?
Well, you know I've been reporting this for a while now. In fact, if you check my Twitter feed, there's an article from MMA Mania that I just wrote about it. So, bada bing, bada boom, Shamrock Gracie 3.
So Newton versus Vassell.
Well, yeah, that's the co-main event that they've signed, or co-main event, to go along with Dada 5000 and Kimbo Slice.
I'd rather watch Vassell and Newton than Dada 5. You're making me say Dada 5000 on this show.
But you know what? That fight ain't gonna last long, so you really don't have anything to worry about.
God, I hope not.
They're just going to go out there and swing for the fences, and one guy's going to fall down, and the fight's going to be over. That's all there is to that. So, and nobody should worry their pretty little head about the fact that they have to watch Kimbo Slice and Dada 5000, because it ain't going to last long. It's a free fight anyway. Why are you complaining? If you don't like it, turn off your fucking TV.
There you go. Now, with Sam Alvey out of UFC Fight Night 82 coming up, Daniel Serafin is now fighting, oh boy, I hope I can say this right, Oluwale Bambos.
I don't think that was even close, but I'm not going to correct it. We'll just move on.
Yeah, he's 5-1 in MMA, 0-1 in the UFC. Bambos fought in August against Uriah Hall in Nashville, Fight Night 73. Got knocked out in the first round.
Yeah, well, he'll try to make a comeback from that disappointing performance, but I would not have been shocked that Uriah Hall would have won that fight. Not just because he was debuting, but because Uriah Hall is just a way better fighter than just some random guy put in to face him.
there's some interesting fights on this card. I mean, you got Garcia Strickland, Kamosi Riggs, and Garbrandt against Lineker.
Yeah, these are hardcore UFC fan fights. They might not light the world on fire, but these are guys that we've seen fighting for a while and we know who they are.
This show is taking place February 21st at the Consol Energy Center in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Right. So basically it's the filler show until we get to Bisping Silva.
Pretty much, and it's the first time they're in Pittsburgh since 2011.
All right, then.
All right. Anything else on the list here? Because the only thing I have here is just a random note I have, and it was something about the Ryzen show, and that was you're on a Japan card when you have Sam Ertz on the card.
When you have what on the card? I didn't even hear you.
When you have Sam Ertz, is that how you pronounce it? Aerts?
Oh, this must be the son of Peter Ertz, then.
Yes, you have an Ertz on a Japanese card, like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, if this was a K1 kickboxing show, I would totally expect that. Because Peter Ertz was a kickboxer. That's what he was famous for.
Yeah, I saw the name and I had, like, visions of, like, fights, Peter, yeah. Is that what you said there?
Yeah, Peter Ertz was the famous kickboxer.
Yeah, he's the one who's on the show.
Oh, you said Sam Ertz.
Oh, I was thinking Sam Alvey, sorry.
That's why I asked you if it was the son. Man, this is going to be the most confusing playback ever. People are going to wonder what the fuck we were talking about. Shit.
Yeah, no, it's, oh boy. Yeah, this has been just one of those shows where
you're having
people listening to this
world
show
fighting fatigue. You're basically telling me you just stayed up every single morning till 8 in the morning watching a live feed from Japan.
I did for one of the days. Not the good day.
Well, you know how
I
you
watched
always
a
like
lot
the
of
cheap plugs. You want me to plug shit on this show? Let me go ahead and plug something right here, right now. Our friend Jason Harland, Pittsburgh's own Jason Harland, go Pittsburgh, the great Sudoku, he stayed up to cover Wrestle Kingdom 10. He watched it from like 2 in the morning till it was over. And he did the same thing for the road to New Japan the next night. He stayed up all night for that too. I woke up at 5 in the morning, I checked my phone, and he was live tweeting.
Oh, yeah, no, there are fans, and then there are super fans, and there's hardcore fans. Like, it's gotten to the point now where sometimes with the time zones, you really have to, if you want to watch it live, make that extra pot of coffee and strap yourself in, basically.
I used to do that 10 years ago for Pride, for Dream. I would stay up. 2 in the morning, I would start clocking Red Bulls like they were going out of style. Like, fuck it, I'm going to stay up and watch this whole thing because it's MMA in Japan, god damn it. And I would do it, but I'm too old for that shit now. It's the Murtaugh rule. I'm too old for this shit.
I remember, waking up just out of a dead sleep to the announcer from Pride shrieking at the top of her lungs, I'm awake, huh? Oh, okay, I'm good. It's just the fight started. Okay, I'm good. Slap yourself, have some coffee, you're good.
Yeah.
But that shrieking, hey!
Len Hart, God bless her. She is an amazing woman. I love her. And when they brought her in for Bellator's Dynamite 1 show in San Jose, I was like, and you talk about having a Japan show in the United States, you know that's the real deal when Len Hart shows up to roll her R's in everybody's name.
Oh yes, absolutely. Alright, so anything else on the program? What's on tap for Thursday Night AMP?
Well, obviously we're going to cover the fallout of Wrestle Kingdom 10 because that's pretty much all we talked about last week other than we spent a little time going over Raw once Jordan J. Garber finally got on the air. He was a little bit late, but we patched him in and we talked about Raw, but most of the show was dedicated to Wrestle Kingdom 10, and now a whole bunch of guys from New Japan have all decided to test the waters in WWE, including AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura. So, gonna be some big news to discuss on AMP.
Now the question I have for you is this. Do they jump to the main roster or do they go in NXT?
Well, according to Dave Meltzer, WrestlingObserver.com, they are not being offered NXT money, quote unquote. They're being offered main roster money.
Wow. See, Nakamura against, man, there's so many good fights there.
Well, you know what they would probably do, even if they offered him main roster money?
What's that?
They would put him in NXT for a few weeks just to build a little buzz on him. Like, tape a month worth of shows with him, spread them out while he's working out things at the Performance Center, making sure that he's got down WWE style. They air all those shows on NXT and get people talking about him, and then bang, they debut him on television.
Now, if only there was another Japanese wrestler who's coming off an injury, that would be for some epic fights.
Yeah, Hideo Itami, aka Kenta.
Alright, well, everyone check out the network, and once again, Stevie, plug those Twitter handles.
At AngryMarks, at HardcoreCDN. Follow us on Twitter, why don't you? We got plenty of good things to say.
Absolutely. Well, for Stevie J and Peter H, the Hardcore Canadian, the hell was that?
That was your cat yelling at you to get off the air.
For Stevie J, I'm Peter H, Hardcore Canadian. Thanks for listening. And as I always say, never leave it to the judges.